Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Wednesday, November 13th. Your Jacksonville Jaguars having a tough time this year. You don't need me to tell you that, obviously. But now that, they're sitting at 2-8, they're really, mathematically, yes, are they still alive? Sure. But the writing has been on the wall for a while now. Things are not going to turn around for the 2024 Jacksonville Jaguars. So the question here that I'm talking about today, because I've seen a lot of people talking about it on the internet, on the Twitter, should Jags fans be rooting for the team to tank? And I'm not necessarily saying rooting for the team to intentionally tank. Should they be rooting for this team to lose as many games as possible? And when we say tank, we're not talking about Tank Bigsby, right? Although you should be rooting for him personally to do well, I think. Tanking, it's become a lot more popular, right? From a fan perspective over the last couple decades, you didn't really hear it before, but you had tank for Trevor, tank for Tua, suck for luck, all these different things, mindsets and slogans that kind of fans took on during seasons in which their football teams looked like they had no hope. And your best hope is to land that number one overall pick and get yourself a quarterback, right? Some folks will argue that winning helps teams no matter what. Like, it's better to win than it is to end up with a better draft pick. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's plenty of reasons to argue against that. I think, especially when you need a quarterback, right? When you need that quarterback and you got to get the franchise quarterback, I certainly don't think winning some games versus getting that franchise quarterback is a reasonable proposition. Just look at the Jets. The Jets were in position to be able to land a Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars lost more games. Jets won a couple games at the end of the year, right? And now the Jaguars have their franchise quarterback who's on his second contract. They've made the playoffs. They've been really close the following year, right? So they've done some things here that the Jets certainly haven't done. And you want to continue to build on that and push forward and grow this organization. But I certainly think that tanking has its merits more than just winning games for the sake of winning games. I really do. Some folks, again, are all for tanking. But again, that's usually when you need a quarterback. Looking at the first overall pick, just a little history here. Since 2000, last 24 drafts, 18 quarterbacks, 25 drafts, 18 quarterbacks have been selected with the first overall pick. Of course, the Jaguars do not need a quarterback. They will not be drafting a quarterback. And this year, looking at the quarterback crop, I don't think there's a quarterback you would feel comfortable taking with the first overall pick if you were a quarterback needy team. You've also seen 5 defensive ends and 2 offensive tackles. So quarterback, protecting the quarterback, trying to affect the quarterback. That's the name of the game at the top of the draft in the NFL. Are the Jaguars in a position to take a defensive end, an edge player at first overall? In my opinion, it's a strong no. Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen aren't going anywhere. So I look at that and I kind of don't really see that making sense, even though I do think like an Abdul Carter might end up being the top player on a lot of teams' boards from a positional value standpoint. He's been lighting it up at Penn State the last few weeks. Are they in a position to take an offensive tackle at first overall if they tanked? I think, yeah. But is there one worth that draft slot this year? That's a tough proposition for me. I think that Josh Simmons was the closest thing to that. Tore his ACL. Will Campbell, I think, is going to be a very, very good football player, but I do question if that's at guard or tackle. And I think it's fair to wonder with his arm length situation. Kelvin Banks, again, maybe a guard. So is there a tackle worth the first overall draft slot? I don't think so. So, like, if you're rooting for the tank and you're rooting for that number 1 overall pick, if the Jaguars end up there, you're probably looking at an unconventional position selected. Cornerback, you could be looking at Travis Hunter as a cornerback / wide receiver. One of the most incredible prospects I've seen. Travis Hunter is an absolute natural on both sides of the ball. Will Johnson is a great cornerback prospect. Interior defensive lineman Mason Graham is a very, very good prospect. Safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia, a very good prospect. Running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise. And of course, Abdul Carter. Those are the top prospects on my board. So if you're looking at positional value and the first overall pick, I think cornerback is certainly the most valuable position there and the one that actually makes the most sense for the Jaguars. So, yeah, like I think if they finish with the first overall pick right now, you'd be looking at Travis Hunter, which I'd be fine with. I mean, that'd be exciting. Somebody that can come in and lock it down opposite Tyson Campbell, come in and probably play, anywhere from 5 to 15 offensive snaps as well. This is a guy that plays full-time on both sides right now. You don't want that in the NFL, but you want him to impact the game as much as he possibly can. But tanking is not just all about the first overall pick. It not only secures you that top pick in the first round, but every round, which is super beneficial at the turn, in between rounds, and especially in between days. Like when you go from night 1 of the draft to day 2, sitting there at the top spot in the second round provides you a lot of control. And same thing at the front of day 3. So there's definitely merits for tanking there. Before we get to the rest of this conversation, got to remind y'all to check out Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em and a whole lot more. You can use code DuvalDaily on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash Pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. This season, Underdog is running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like their profit boosts. You can pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There's tons of options for Jaguars and Lions. Maybe you want to take a running back to score. Maybe you take Bigsby, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. Underdog has vulture protection for running backs to rescue your pick 'em. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code DuvalDaily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY 467-369. Shout out to Underdog. So, what do I think fans should be rooting for here? I think it's entirely fair to root for the Jaguars to have the best draft picks possible. I absolutely do. I can't argue with that. Like, even in a class where maybe there's not the blue chip quarterbacks, you might not have the opportunity to trade back in this draft because there might not be teams willing to move up for any of these quarterbacks. Still, I think, would you rather have Travis Hunter or would you rather have the player you can select at 7 overall? I mean, give me Travis Hunter all day or Will Johnson all day, right? I feel darn good about saying that right now. I also think it's fair to just root for the Jaguars to lose to ensure that changes are made at the top. That's the other part of this thing. Like, if by some miracle the Jaguars start winning games and get competitive and get close to making the playoffs, does Shad Khan decide, hey, We're close. It's not time yet. It's not time. That's a scary proposition. So I think it's absolutely fair to root for this team to lose just to ensure that changes are made at the top of the coaching staff and the top of the front office. I really do. I also think it's fair for fans to root for the team to win. Like, if you're a season ticket holder, if you're just someone who watches every single game, watching your team win is fun. It is. I get that. And you don't need the quarterback this year. If you're sitting there and you have a horrible football team and you need your quarterback to be selected in the top of the first round, that's a little bit of a different proposition. I think it's absolutely fair if you want to see this football team win games because you only get 17 of these things a year. That's all you're guaranteed. It's fair if you want to spend your Sundays watching this football team win, even if it doesn't matter from a making the playoff standpoint or anything like that and, negatively impacts the draft. I get it. Personally, the way I'm looking at this, I think whatever it takes for the Jaguars to make sure there's a new coaching staff and front office in place that have each other's back, that have the same vision, that's what I want to see. Bottom line. Even if it doesn't work out, that's what I want to see. I want to see a leadership group here that has the same vision for how to build this football team. And I don't see that with the current group, bottom line. I want to see competence. I want to see people working towards a common goal and trying to get there the same way. It's not my way or the highway from the GM or from the coach. It's this whole group working together. I want to see Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. and the rest of these guys supported by an organization that knows what they're doing. Shad Khan, I give the guy credit. Since he has arrived in Jacksonville as the owner, all he has done is poured money into the football operation, into the infrastructure of this organization. But he has struggled to pick the right folks to lead the football side of it. Business-wise, doing great. Getting the Miller Electric Center built, fantastic. All the upgrades he's done to the stadium over the years, fantastic. Doing a completely massive renovation that's going to essentially give Jacksonville a new stadium in a few years, fantastic. But from a football standpoint, it's been tough sledding. And I do think Doug Peterson was a good hire at the time, but I don't think that you had a Doug Peterson and a Trent Baalke that were on the same page for very long, if at all. You got to find folks that agree with each other, and not just as yes men, right? But as people who have the same vision, who can hold each other accountable and really believe in each other. And whether that takes a search committee, whether it takes bringing in folks that have seen the success in Jacksonville to figure out how best to rebuild this thing, like former players who have been around here, Tom Coughlin, I mean, whatever it is. I'm not saying you bring back Tom Coughlin as an EVP or anything like that, but if he needs to be part of a search committee, if you need to just hire an outside search committee that has no subjectivity, whatever it takes, just get me a front office and a coaching staff that are in lockstep. And I do want to see a GM that cares more about football players than arm length. I've about had it with that. About had it with the projects. And, Baalke's done good in the first round overall. Still don't think Trayvon Walker was the right pick, but was he a good pick? Has he developed into a good player? Absolutely. Trevor Lawrence, absolutely the right pick. Anton Harrison, very good pick. Brian Thomas Jr., very good pick. I think you could certainly criticize trading up for Devin Lloyd. That's something I was I was excited about. I was a big fan of Devin Lloyd coming out. I still think he has the opportunity to become a very good linebacker in this league. I think he's working towards that, still trying to develop consistency. But overall, yeah, I think Trent Baalke's done a good job in the first round. Travis Etienne, again, it's tough to take backs that high, running backs that high. But when he's on, he's been one of the most electric runners in the league. But after that first round, and then the team building part of it, and the leadership part of it, being a good manager of people, yeah, time to move on. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let me know what you think about tanking, potentially not tanking, whatever it may be, in the comment section below. Y'all have a good one.